Okay, so then I'm going to switch the conversation and start talking about the shadow, which is a different topic from Reiki, but something I just got, I went through that process. I was going to say got done. I'm not done with it because I'm still in it. I went through that process last weekend, and I'm still processing everything. Let me just want to drink real quick. Any of you guys have heard of Debbie Ford?
Debbie Ford?
Yeah.
A little bit. So.
Some folks heard of Debbie Ford. So let me first share with you my incredible story about how this all came about. So, February of this year, I had a very vivid dream where this little vivacious, bubbly woman was teaching hundreds and hundreds of people in a classroom with rows and rows of seats. And I was one of those students. And to my right was Doreen Virtue, and to my left was somebody else I don't remember. But she was very articulate, and she was giving us very important lessons, which I didn't remember when I woke up, but I just did remember what she looked like, and I remember that her name was Debbie. And she looked familiar, but I didn't know who she was. Another subtle thing about the dream was that I was in a hotel, and I stayed on the 5th floor. So table that for a second. So when I wake up, it was so vivid. It wasn't, you know how you can tell the difference between a dream and like a message? Like there's dreams, and then like you might have visitations from past loved ones, and you're like, that wasn't a dream, like they really came to visit me. It felt a little bit like that. So I woke up, I did a Google search for like Debbie and like spiritual teacher, and this woman named Debbie Ford came up. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the woman from my dream. And I never seen her before. I think I might have seen her on Oprah, but I hadn't registered that's who it was. So she's famous for doing some work called the shadow work, which is embracing the shadow side of yourself, basically loving all aspects and all parts of yourself to become more whole, and letting go of shame and judgment on them, which I'll talk about more in a second. It's like, wow, that's interesting. So I kind of, read a little bit about her, watched her shadow process movie, and just kind of, again, tabled it for a bit. Fast forward until July, and I'm in a meditation with a friend of mine, Karuna, and all of a sudden, I'm like hanging out with Jesus, I'm in my like Buddhist space, and like in this higher plane of existence, and Miss Debbie Ford walks into my meditation. And I'm like, what are you doing here? This is a high frequency plane. And she's basically like, you need to keep doing my work. You need to complete my work. You need to finish my work. I'm like, okay, I surrender. I don't understand, but I'll keep going for it. So a few days after that, I'm in a bookstore, and I stumble upon this book, Your Holiness, by Debbie Ford. And it just resonated, and it was in the new release section. And I'm like, well, I think Debbie passed away. But I didn't know a lot of her history. So I open up the forward, and I'll read to you what is in the forward, because it knocked me off my socks. All right, if I can read. So this is written by her sister. Whether you believe in the afterlife or not, I continue to receive emails, phone calls, and social media messages on a near daily basis from her friends, talking about Debbie, friends, students, and coaches, and even strangers, sharing with me that Debbie is guiding them from the other side via dreams, direct messages, and signs. So I read that, and I'm like, oh my God. So I bought the book, read it cover to cover, found out that she's doing her shadow work in Miami, and so I went to do that with the Ford Institute last weekend. What's significant about the timing of everything is when I had the dream, I realized after reading this book that it was almost exactly 5 years after she died. So Debbie Ford passed away from cancer in 2013 in February. And so the dream was almost exactly 5 years after her death. The Your Holiness book, which I read, really talks about embracing your divinity, and it's all about the light. And her first book, which she's known for, is The Shadow. It's embracing all about kind of what we consider the dark side of ourselves. And so she's got I think 10 books in total. And what's really nice is, you know, these 2 books are beautiful bookends for, I think, her work. Embracing Your Light and Embracing Your Shadow Self. So, the Shadow Workshop last weekend was a 2.5 intensive led by Kelly Jones. I just totally spaced her last name. Who was handpicked by Debbie to continue her work after she passed. And it was a really intensive, getting down deep and dirty into those dark nooks and crannies of yourself that you're kept hidden for all these years, and shining a light on them, and realizing that they're really not as bad and dark and gloomy as you think. I'll give you an example. If you find that you're triggered by people that are lazy, like let's say you see people in your life or people in the news or whatever, and if there's someone that's like lazy, that really gets under your skin. Like, I can't stand lazy people. Let's say if that's your thing. Well, working with the shadow means that if you're triggered by someone, it's because you're afraid of that or you're not embracing that part of yourself. So if you think about the lazy example, what is it about lazy that is offensive to you? Well, they don't pull their own weight, they're irresponsible. What are some things about lazy that might trigger you guys?
You have to do the work for them.
You got to do the work for them.
It's entitlement.
Entitlement, right? Right.
It's hard to say. I'm considering myself as a lazy person.
Well, okay, that's great. So then what's the benefit of being lazy? What are some of the benefits of being lazy?
You don't have to do it.
You don't have to do it.
Spend more time doing nothing.
Yeah. And what happens if you spend more time doing nothing?
I haven't been there yet.
You get more time for reflection, right? So I can say, I'm taking a day to recharge my batteries, and someone might call that lazy. When I see it as self-care. Sometimes when you're lazy, that's when your creative juices start flowing more. When you're able to just rest and kind of turn some things off, that's when things become much more apparent. What are some other things that trigger you guys? Like when you see things in the news, when you've, let's not get political, even though I know I want to go there, we're not going to go there. If you see somebody that really irritates you, like what are some of the things and the traits that irritate you about those people?
Trump.
I just said we're not going to do
I know,
political.
I just want to say it out.
Okay, well, what are some of the characteristics that trigger you, that you really find offensive? Anyone can add.
Well, on that, I'm not for or against and need to put that up front. But what I find, what triggers me is people just parroting what somebody else says without any real thought about it. To me, that triggers me. That someone says something negative about someone and people just blast it across Facebook and they don't balance anything out. They don't have their own words to it. They're just echoing somebody else's opinion. That to me is a trigger.
So give me like a specific example, because I'm having a hard time following.
Talking of your friend Donald.
Arrogance is a good one. Lack of compassion, that's a good one too. Sorry, go ahead.
Just people echo all negative things, and no one balances anything out with anything that he's done positive.
Right.
And then I was at somebody's place getting ready to do a massage, and they were on Fox News, and it was blurting out all the different things, not for and not against, but just. And then I went that afternoon to somebody else's place, and they were watching another newscast and that's where I really noticed the difference.
Yeah.
So,
Our news is flawed right now.
no.
That's all I'll say.
The biggest one I say to people is your World Series. Name all the countries in the World Series. baseball is your World Series.
Yeah, United States.
You have, the only countries are what? California, Texas. No,
You mean? Oh, yeah, it's true.
it's an American thing, but they're calling it a World Series. They don't. Canada, I don't think even competes in it anymore.
So let's get back to
Sorry.
what triggers you. So people that are not balanced or who are only
Parroting somebody else's
close?
opinion.
Parroting somebody else's opinion. What kind of person does that?
Lots of people. I would
Give me a
put
trait.
character.
Give me a trait, like a personality trait. What kind of person just mimics somebody else?
Someone who doesn't think that their values count. So they have to take somebody else's values.
Okay.
Lack of self-confidence, maybe.
Lack of self-confidence, yeah.
But in the arena of the Trump, it's people that
It's blown up.
surprise me.
Yeah. One of the things, and this, since we're talking a little political, that I want to mention to folks online, folks in the room, whatever you resist persists. So the resist movement is actually not doing themselves much favors by calling themselves the resist movement, because what they're doing is basically suppressing certain things, and that's going to come up anyway. So give me some other things that trigger you guys. So I saw some folks online, belittling behavior, insecure person, derogatory, someone who puts other people down. So who's the type of person that would put somebody else down?
Someone who doesn't feel as confident about themselves.
Somebody who lacks self-confidence. Now, how many of us can relate to that, though? They might not express it properly, but how many of us can relate to feeling insecure at one point? And there's probably been some point in our lives where we've been derogatory, right? When's it positive? When's it okay to be derogatory?
Is it?
Is it? I
like to see the better in most people, in all people.
There's times where being derogatory might be a benefit or might be needed. So I'll play devil's advocate here. Now we're moving from politics to religion, the two taboo subjects, right? So everything that's going on with the Catholic Church right now, right? How they've been hiding sexual abuse for decades. How they've not brought any of these priests to trial. I could go on and on and on. I can say very derogatory things about the Catholic Church because of how they've handled the sex abuse scandals. To me, that doesn't feel wrong.
So therefore, is it derogatory or is it stating facts? Facts can be a negative position, but if it's a fact, is a fact. The fact is, in that instance, they have been hiding or hushing the allegations and paying people off, or however they've handled it, maybe not as appropriate as what they should.
Right.
But it's a fact.
But if I want to say something derogatory, like the Catholic Church should not be the Catholic Church anymore, that's derogatory. That's not a fact, that's an opinion. But I'm allowed that opinion given the state of what's going on. So what I want you guys to think about is, the light and the dark side, and having a scale, a light and a dark side, and a scale that you can easily move from one to the other as you need it. So the idea is not to embrace your dark and evil and crappy side. It's to love it and to give yourself choices so that when you're in certain circumstances, you've got the freedom of choice to choose this side or that side, depending on what's needed at that moment in time. We can all agree that murder is wrong, right? So the scale, don't kill lives, take a life. But in those cases, those rare cases where you're defending your family, you're defending yourself, murder unfortunately needs to be an option. If you've completely turned that side of your brain off, then you might not have that option to defend yourself. I mean, that's an extreme example, but it's one that they used in the workshop that really resonated with me. So yes, on the surface, a lot of these things are like, we want to avoid this, we don't want to be this. But if you understand the gifts, the potential gifts of those darker sides, you can embrace them and become more whole, and then have more tools in your toolbox with which to use if you need them. Now, there are going to be some of those traits that are always going to be difficult to embrace. No one wants to embrace being a racist, a rapist, a murderer, all these things, right? So instead of like, well, what's the rapist in me or what's the racist in me, what you can do is look at the opposite. Well, if you're having struggles understanding why people are rapists, what's the positive of that? People that are caring and protective and nurturing. So at the very least, you can appreciate the dark so that you can appreciate the opposite of it. Does that make sense? Sort of? A little bit? No?
No.
Because for me, that position, embracing the dark so you can see the positive, I can't condone a rapist. I can step back and look at it from a different perspective, where I see their traits, and most people are doing what they do for the right reasons in their mind, whether we agree with it or not.
Right.
So that's reframing what you've said, but it's the way I can accept. The Robert comes in, and that's his job. He helps people relieve themselves of their bits and pieces so that he can make money.
Right.
That's his job. And in his mind, I'm only doing it to make money.
Mm-hmm.
He's not doing it to hurt you, not doing it to hurt the next person.
Mm-hmm.
In his mind. So he's bad choices, but the best choices that he sees at that time.
Yeah. And it's not about, embracing the dark isn't about condoning
No, I understand.
actions. It's about understanding that we all have the potential for all things within us, and that by
Perspective.
by that perspective helps us become more whole. One of the things that I learned personally, and I won't go into my shadow because it's dark and ugly and it's personal, but one of the things that I learned that I think was a tenet across all the other classmates was that shame and judgment get released. And it's incredible to see how much self-judgment and shame we carry from being a little kid. And, Debbie says in her book that the shadow is developed in the first 10 years of our life. And so if you look at things that you are judgmental about, things that trigger you, things that you are shameful for, they're usually things that you were told in your childhood that were wrong. Like you just were a kid and just expressing yourself, and you're being too loud. Quiet down. You're too wild. Settle down, right? And so now you might have gone the opposite direction, and you're super straight-laced and can't have fun.
Oh, man, yeah.
Or you went the other way, like, well, if I'm a wild child, then I'm going to be super wild, in which case you might party too hard and gone the opposite direction. So think about those things in your life that trigger you. Try to turn it on yourself and say, what about me that I'm not accepting about the egotistical part of myself, the judgmental part of myself, the ignorant part of myself? Honor and love that part of yourself without judgment, and let it kind of incorporate itself into you. The benefits of doing the shadow work is that not only do you become more whole, you're a lot less triggered by the stuff that you see in your environment. It doesn't affect you the same way. So if you see 45 and it's upsetting for what he's doing or saying, you can see that really he's egotistical, and he's really a scared boy looking for approval from his dad. And yes, it might soften the blow some. It might not take away all of the anger or the upset that you might have. But when have you felt egotistical? When have you felt the need to be loved and craving that love and felt insecure? And when have you lashed out because you haven't had those gifts, or you felt unsafe or insecure in some ways? So it's the greatest triggers are our greatest teachers. So pay attention to those and see what kind of work you need to do internally to remove and accept those parts of yourselves. And yes, I'm going to be giving Reiki to you guys in a little bit. Questions on the shadow? Any questions online? Yes.
Yeah, I get the idea behind. It's amazing. I really like it, and I'll get this book for sure.
Yeah.
But behind all those stories, it's like a idea when you have a disease and you hate it, you give it power.
That's
It's
right.
similar, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's really.
When you deny it, it's going to come up in different unexpected spots. So like if you, let's say, deny you got an anger management issue and you suppress it and you suppress it, you suppress it, then it's going to come out in these unexpected, uncontrolled ways, and it might become violent. Whether if you understand it, you've got anger and appreciate it and have a healthy release for it, then you control it, it doesn't control you. And so understanding these tools, understanding these gifts, and embracing them and acknowledging them. So the other thing that was really helpful for me, and I'm totally guilty of this. You work in the light, you're a light worker. No, we're not in the dark, that's scary, we're above that, we've risen above that. Bullshit. We have it. You can't be in the light without seeing what's in the dark and getting through the dark.
Each coin has two sides.
Absolutely. One of the biggest lessons I got during the weekend was it's very easy to find the beauty in the light. Can you find the beauty in the dark? That's your challenge. And that's something that I've been working through and working with since I've gotten back and since I've read her book. So your biggest triggers are your teachers, and can you find the beauty in the dark? Questions? Other questions, comments? All right.
Accepting who you are all the time.
Yeah. Letting go of shame, letting go of judgment. You just are, you know. You're dirty, you're beautiful, you're clean, you're ignorant, you're, angry, you're gentle, you're peaceful, you're violent, like all of those things. And again, when you allow yourself to embrace those aspects of yourself, you've got more options of how to respond to certain things. When you might need to go slide the scale onto the other side sometimes. Other comments? You guys want to do a shadow meditation?
Cool.
So why don't you guys, if anyone needs to take a quick restroom break, go for it. Folks, I'm going to be doing a meditation, so you're welcome to join us. So if you want to keep watching, just silence your phone so you won't be disturbed. Find a comfy spot and relax. You guys want to just jump right in? Okay. I'm going to change the music.
Are we there yet?
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? So take a nice deep breath. Get comfortable however you want to get comfy. You could be laying down, you could be seated, legs crossed or flat on the ground. It's up to you. Take a nice deep inhale. Nice deep exhale. And let's first just kind of check in with our bodies, see how we're feeling. Notice any tension, any pain, any stress that you're holding on to. If you notice that, just send your breath to that area, and on the exhale, just try to consciously release it. Relax your forehead, your eyes, your face, your neck, throat. Just with each inhale, send more oxygen and breath into each body part. And with every exhale, just let everything hang as you sink deeper into the chair or into the ground. Relax your shoulders. Relax your arms. Let them just hang at your sides. Relaxing your wrists and your hands, your fingertips. Relax your chest, your back, your stomach, your lower back. Open your pelvic area. Your thighs, your shins, your calves, your knees. Your ankles. The top of your feet. The bottom of your feet. Just take a nice deep breath. Let go of all your responsibilities. Let go of being a parent, a spouse, a partner, a sibling, a daughter or a son, or a friend. Just let go of all of those responsibilities and just tune into yourself. This is time for you. In this environment, you are safe. In this environment, you are protected. In this environment, you are so loved. I want you to imagine that you're outside and it's a beautiful, warm, sunny day. And you're walking through a beautiful, lush forest. Everywhere you look, there's just life teeming around you. Beautiful trees, flowers, butterflies and birds. Just take a minute and notice your surroundings. What are you seeing? What are you smelling? What are you hearing? As you look in front of you, you notice a path through the forest, and you start to walk down that path. And with each breath, each step you're taking, you're breathing in that energy of the forest, up through the bottoms of your feet, feeling recharged and refreshed as your energy is getting cleaned out with each step you take through this beautiful forest. As you continue to walk along the forest, you come to a clearing. And in the middle of this clearing is this beautiful field of wildflowers and grass. And right in the center is this big comfy couch. It looks so inviting and so comfortable. And you walk up to that couch and you sit or lie down and just get really comfortable on that couch. Feeling at home, feeling at peace in your sacred place. As you look to the right, you see a small being come forward. And this being is your younger self, your shameful self, the one that you've denied because you were told it was wrong or bad or inappropriate. And this younger version of yourself comes up timidly and sits on a chair right across from you. Notice what this younger self looks like, how they're dressed, how they look. And ask them, what message do you bring to me? And take the first thing that comes to your mind. Your younger self will be telling you what message it has for you. What part of yourself have you denied or judged or found shameful? Ask your younger self, what message do you have for me? Ask your younger self who they are, what trait or part of yourself are they that you have denied in the past. Take the first thing that comes to mind. As you look into the eyes of your younger self, ask him or her, what are the gifts that you bring me? What are the gifts that you bring me? Take the first answer that comes. What are the gifts that you bring me? Take another deep breath. And now ask your younger self, what do you need to do to incorporate this aspect of yourself? What do you need to do to incorporate this aspect of yourself? Take the first answer that comes. over and embrace that younger, denied aspect of ourselves. And we bring them close to our chest, and we hug them, and we love them. And as we continue to hug them, they merge with ourselves. Continue to sit on your couch, feeling grateful for the messages that came forward, feeling grateful for the ability to reincorporate an aspect of yourself that you once denied. Take a few breaths. Slowly come off the couch, walk back down the path, back into your forest, back into your bodies. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingertips. And when you're ready to come back fully, you can open your eyes. If anything came through, if you want to jot down some notes, you're more than welcome to journal. If you need pieces of paper, I've got some in here. How's everybody feeling?
Warm.
Warm? Relaxed. Good.
And that's part of meditation as well.
Good. Were you any of you able to see that younger part of yourself? Did you get any messages? If so?
Just enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Good. Have more fun.
I always have fun. Sometimes I don't enjoy the fun as much as what I should.
Aha. Good. How are you doing, Gina?
I'm good. It's good. Mine told me like that I am secure, and like that was the biggest thing. I think I was never feeling secure growing up, so it's just like you are got the love. It's good.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
How you doing, Sean?
It was a journey, mostly like a meadow with dry wild grass, and but I almost got astral projection because that was my astral body. But, it was pretty good.
Good. Welcome. Jennifer, how you doing?
Actually, I saw a fairy come to me even I walked in the forest, and she brought me to the chair. When you start saying those things, then first thing I come up with blame.
With what?
Blaming myself.
Blaming
I know-
yourself.
Yeah, I know that's my biggest problem, but I'm working on it. So then it says free it. Freedom is my next thing to do.
Great.
Accept myself. I'm working on it right now, so
Good.
this is my problem, I know it.
Well, I mean, problem or learning opportunity?
Yeah, so I kind of know this is it. So when it says that, then I know it. So.
kind of resonates.
Yeah.
Good. How about you, Anne?
I got stuck in that past life
Mm.
that I've seen here before.
Mm-hmm.
I had a hard time sitting up because of curvature of my spine. I always feel myself as a hunchback,
Mm.
and I wasn't sure whether, my head.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't sit up straight. So I missed some of that because I was too focused on what is that? Why? And that's the only past life I ever see.
Well, and maybe
Is that
there's,
old woman.
if it keeps coming back, there's probably some lessons to be learned from that past life. Some things to incorporate, especially in this space. There might be some parts of that life that you are ashamed of, or that maybe you denied or judged, or you needed to do over for, which is why you're here again. And so maybe meditating and asking that past life self the same questions. Doesn't have to be your younger self. Sure, it can be a past life self. What lessons do you have for me? What gifts do you bring? What do you want me to know?
What learnings?
Mm-hmm. What learnings?
What learnings can you preserve and bring forward? Which the learnings will give you the clarity that you need today.
And how about you, Anne?
So it's like, yeah, I actually saw like an older photograph of myself, kind of took the
Mhm.
image from a photograph
Nice.
of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I pictured that as me, and basically the message I got came up was live your life,
Mm-hmm.
live,
Great.
and yeah, basically love and do now what you love. Because I feel like my whole life, I haven't really done what I wanted to do. It's
Mhm.
always been for other people
Mm-hmm.
somehow. And
It's time. It's time for you.
yes, and yeah, that's like when I was almost in my 50s. That's when I really made a big change.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still trying to work on that.
Mm-hmm. We're all a work in progress, myself included.
Say that, but it's like,
I found every time I step away from where I love my passion, something happens to me that makes me have to go back. From a skill source through my leg or a hernia operation, so steers me back. Sometimes I listen and then I forget.
So Jackie's sharing, her younger self told her to remember the enthusiasm and curiosity she has as a child. It's great. Need to find the courage to live that way again. Don't we all? Absolutely. I think that was a common theme for a lot of us. Since we're all sharing, mine was, again, just embracing the shame, things that I thought were shameful, things that I thought were bad because I was told that they were. Incorporating those and finding the joy and the freedom in that.
Yes, we all need to remember that what protected us and what gave us direction when we were 7, 12, 14
Yeah.
perhaps doesn't serve us quite the same as a 25-year-old, as a 30-year-old. So what's the average age here? 35? Yeah, thereabouts.
Sure, yeah. I'm going on 28. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, what we grew up with, what we were guided through, that protected us at that age, that we still keep those traits now when we reevaluate them and work out where they come from and how we can park them and
Mm-hmm.
readapt,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where we get that step forward.
That's right. Yeah. How we can incorporate those again. Because sometimes denying them is what's holding us back in the first place from going forward. Yeah. So Tricia says her younger self brought her the message of innocence. It's great. So again, the work is called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers by Debbie Ford. Highly recommend it. Not all of it's going to stick. Some of it may, some of it may not. The exercises, same thing. Some of it may stick, some of it won't. Try them out. Like I went through not all the exercises, but a good chunk of them, and some of them were awkward, but some of them I'm like, yeah, I'm not. Just kind of go through the motions, and then boom, I had some powerful revelation. So stick with it if you go through the exercises. And then this one's a great one to follow up with, Your Holiness, so Embracing the Light in Your Divinity. It's a beautiful book. It's kind of a book of prayers. It's really nice. I also wrote a blog about it, so if you guys want to read more, if you're not into reading the book or you're not ready for that, the short synopsis of what the stuff that we talked about tonight is on my blog as well. Before we break off and do Reiki, I want to do just a couple of quick announcements. Then I'll give Reiki to those online, and I'll sign off online, and folks in person will do Reiki in person. Questions before I do that? Questions on Reiki? Questions on the shadow self? Questions on anything we talked about so far? Clear as mud?
And then clarity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Clears it up, and then clarity comes. Okay, great. So a couple of things I've got coming up. My Reiki 2 class. So any of my Reiki 1 practitioners that are looking for the next step in Reiki 2, that's on October 13th, and that's where you learn distance and mental emotional symbols. And really, you don't get the full understanding of what Reiki is until you take Reiki 2, in my honest opinion, because the symbols are just, it's like the second half of the puzzle.
It just opens up.
It just opens up. That's all day Saturday, the 13th of October, and then the following Saturday is an Ascended Masters workshop. So I'm excited about this. First time I'm doing this. It's going to be kind of like the Archangels, but we're going to focus on Ascended Masters. It's a 2-hour workshop, $35. If you've got Ascended Master cards, bring them. If you've got Ascended Master, pictures or statues or whatever, bring those as well. That'll be fun. And then my next healing night will be the 27th of October, barring any Halloween parties. Reiki 1 class is on November 3rd. And then a few weeks later, I'm doing it's supposed to be 11-11 to 11-12, the Infinite Heart Practitioner course. That's not, it's not Reiki related. Neither is the Ascended Mastered workshop. But it's kind of a different flavor of it. It's like a different modality where it's more heart healing, it's light language, it's using sound in your vocal cords to do more higher frequency, spiritual development, teaching, removing blocks at a higher frequency level. More about that on my website. And then the next Reiki Master class is in December. So that's a 3-day course, December 8th through the 10th. So that's where you will learn how to become a teacher, how to set up your practice, how to give Reiki to others. And then the other thing that's new on here is in January I'm doing a 2-day workshop on the 19th and the 20th on my book. So Why Are You Sick? So I wrote this book, and I didn't bring it up front. That's up here. Thanks. So I wrote this a couple years ago, and I'm ready to do I'm working on the second edition right now, which I'm really excited about. New cover, new extra stuff inside. And I'm doing a workshop, 2-day workshop on each of the different chapters. So we're going to basically use this as a workbook and go through each of the chakras, understanding what they are, how we get stuck, and then going through exercises to unstuck, is that a word? Unstick each one of the chakras one by one.
Both of the above.
That's right, both. Unstick and unstuck. So that's coming up in January, and I'm really excited for that. That's open to anybody. You don't have to be a Reiki practitioner. You don't have to know anything about anything. That's open to everybody. The Infinite Heart one is open to folks that are a little like Reiki 2 or equivalent or higher, because it's more advanced spiritual modalities. Any questions about upcoming stuff? No? So folks online, hang out for another minute. I'm going to give you some Reiki. Folks in the room, go ahead and take a break. Get something to drink, use the restroom, have some cookies, go ahead and chat, and then I'm going to give some Reiki to our folks online. And then we'll come back and do some chair Reiki. Oh, it's perfect. You guys can come back and do that to your perfect mix. It's an even number, so you can do chair Reiki on each other.
Cool.
So those online, if you'd like to receive Reiki, oops, this way, this way. There you go. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a blessed evening.